Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us again for another episode of Leading on Mondays. My name is Florian, and I'm so delighted to be with you today. And I'm joined by my friend Mădălina. Hi, Mădălina.
Hello, everyone.
Can you hear us well?
I think I have a problem with my sound. Just a
Yeah,
second.
I hear some feedback. So maybe you have the LinkedIn window open as well.
I think so. I just closed it, so I think now we're good. Hello,
Perfect.
Florin.
How are you doing
Nice
today?
I'm very good. I'm excited for our questions today, and I cannot wait for you to share your experience, how to deal with this, and how to motivate our top people in the team.
Right. So that's the topic for today, right?
Yes.
So where
Okay.
do you want us to start?
Well, actually, I got this idea from one of my clients, and they have a team. And in their team, they found out that one of the best people wants to leave the team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the manager in this case has a little struggle to deal with this. Okay, what do I do when my one of my top people is leaving? How can I make him stay? Or the other way, in case he really does want to leave and I cannot keep him in the team, what can I do to fill the void that he's leaving in my team? So
Right.
what do you think about that? What do you suggest, Florin?
Yeah, so the person is still on the team, right? It just maybe informed the manager that he wants to leave. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I think there is still chance. There is still a chance for the leader because usually when I hear this, Florian, our best people are leaving, I tell people, well, it's too late because if they're already leaving now, you know, they're leaving because something bothered them, long ago. It's not that they made the decision this morning they don't want to come to the office anymore. They probably had some things that bothered them over, maybe 6 months or 1 year, and now they made a decision. But in this case, I think there is hope, right? So if I would be sitting with that leader, what I would say, I would want to know if the leader knows what motivates the person. I think that's the first question I would like to ask that leader. Say, do you know what motivates that individual, right? And what is the reason why they say they want to leave? Because what I have found is that people are motivated by different things. We talk about money, and I know money is many times what people blame when they leave a company. So I have worked with individuals and I have been through experiences like this where people left a team or left a company, and when they've been asked why, it was very easy for them to say money. And then the leader or the manager will say, well, okay, so there is nothing we can do about money. Okay, so that's it. It's not my responsibility and there's nothing I can do, right? Because they have budgets, right? And they have salaries, and they cannot choose. They don't have the freedom, right, to pay whatever to anyone. But what I say, sorry, we cannot work with money. So something else. And in other cases is where the person living, they use maybe a spouse, I know my spouse is moving, or they got another job, they got a promotion in another city, and now I'm moving with them. So in these cases, the leader feels that they have, they cannot do much, right? But what can we do actually is preventing that. So when we look at money, I think in order for us to understand what would make that person stay and also what makes that person leave, we need to understand first what are the motivators, like what motivate people to work and perform and be part of the team. And if you look at research shows different things like, having freedom in the workplace, like, being part of something, being part of a culture, making an impact in the world, having a positive reinforcing work environment, and probably money will come also on that list, but it's not primarily money. And a quote that I love by Simon Sinek is, when you have to remind yourself every single day that they're paying you well, you probably hate your job. So if you have to remind yourself that they're paying you well, it means that you probably don't like your job, and you try now to convince yourself with some other arguments, like, I don't like it, but at least they pay me well, right?
Yes,
Sounds
I heard that
familiar?
before
Yeah, exactly. So,
multiple times actually. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, so that's where I will start. I will first start to look at what motivates this person, and it could be different things. I love assessments just because it helps leaders it gives them a more objective view on their people and the personalities that they have on the team. So, for example, we know that usually people are motivated by three or four things. So uh, a group of people will be motivated by having the freedom in their job to decide upon their daily tasks, and also having being able to determine the results. Like, they don't really want to have someone else on the team that might be underperforming, and them being penalized by someone else underperforming. So these people like freedom, right? The
Mm-hmm.
second group of people are the people that like positive reinforcing environment. These people will say it's fun to do this job, it's fun to be in this company, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the third group, which are the people that like a safe and stable environment, and these are the most loyal employees, and they like the teamwork. And then you have another set of people that we usually find that they like a more structured environment. They like this environment because they can work with creating very, very good quality work, but also that we know who does what, and we have very clear role assignment, right? So when you look at those four categories, then what would I do with that leader? I would sit together and we will try to see where that person fits into this category, right? And see, is there any one of these four things or a combination of these that might help them change their mind?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good approach, especially if you put the context from the beginning. Is this person really living or not, or we have a chance to still keep him in our team? So yes, I think we still have one chance to keep him if we understand what motivates him.
Right.
But let's say, for example, the other way, or the other situation where they really want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
They have an offer already from outside.
Yeah.
Let's say that the motivation is already filled by that offer or by that environment.
Mm-hmm.
And the leaving of this employee will leave a blank spot or
Right.
an empty spot in our team. How
Mm-hmm.
can we deal with this in situation? Because it might be one of the top people,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure that the team doesn't suffer a big crush or a big I don't know, failure, or backup, sorry, like a crash. Yes, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a better word to say it. How can we make sure that we fill the void?
Yeah. So that's a challenging situation, especially if the leader or the organization doesn't have a backup plan. Like, one of the things that I've done when I lead my team, and also what I advise leaders to do, is to always have a three case scenario. What I mean by that is, what would happen if Mădălina is leaving tomorrow? Do I have three cases or three scenarios of replacing her tomorrow? And especially, one of the principle I really love about leadership and working with people is the 80-20 principle, or the Pareto principle, especially when this is applied to teams, right? So I wrote in a previous article on LinkedIn about how can you apply this to people. And actually, I even have it here. So I created a little table. This is one of the tables we created from the one of John Maxwell's principles. But what we said is that you, as a leader, you need to know what are your top 20 people, that 12 top 20% people, that if they leave or start working against you, it will have a huge impact on your team and your team performance, right? So when we look at 80-20, so if you have a team of 10 people, two out of those 10 would be those key employees that we're talking about right now, right? So you, as a leader, before, that's exactly why we want to really actually take care of these people, because if they leave, they might leave a void. And now the question is, what do we do when they leave? Like, let me give you what we could do before they leave, so they don't leave, right? Because if they leave, then we should put in place one of those scenarios. So if we had already a scenario in place that we have people which could take their role, we could split that person's responsibility, among 2 or 3 people, right? And maybe redesign some roles. So someone leaving is not necessarily always a bad thing. Sometimes could be also an agent of change. So we had some, role split before, and now because this person left, now we can actually assign these tasks in a different way and create opportunities for someone who already has the potential to take that position. But what I mean by this 80-20 is that as a leader, we need to know who are those top people, top 20% of our team, and spend 80% of our time and resources with those 20%. And then those 20% would be able to then mentor and lead and grow the other 80% from our team. Because as a leader, especially in today's world, I know leaders that have up to, I know someone, I spoke with him recently, has 52 consultants under his, leadership. Like, how can you make time for 52 people, right? That's huge, right? Exactly. So that's where this principle comes into place. So to answer your question, if we are now faced with that, with that person leaving, then we need to look at, do we have a scenario? Do we have someone who could take the responsibility? And do we have someone that wants to be promoted and we could promote to take that responsibility, or can we split that responsibility among the team members?
Mm-hmm. Actually, that was a good approach. I was also thinking about that because in leadership we have another principle, delegation. And it's actually the role of a leader is to create more leaders, not more followers. And that will reduce their time to spend with each member of the team. Because if they delegate and they actually create more leaders in their team, then this scenario will be, let's say, even easier to implement in the team if one of the top people will leave the company. And it will bring the opportunity for others below that level to become a leader or to fill the void. So that's actually one of the good steps that we can do. And I see here in the comment there is one thing that raised another question, and I would like to ask you. Let's say, for example, the person who wants to leave my team will accept my counter offer. Yes, so the company will give you, let's say, more money and some other benefits that you didn't have before, and you don't want to take the last offer again. What is that situation? Do you think that people will stay? Do you think this is a good idea? What are the consequences if I give my top person a counter offer that will take? What will be the risks for me in a long term as a leader?
So actually, I know that's a strategy that some people use to negotiate their salary, right? So again, if you know why this person wants to leave, and what is about the other offer that actually fulfills maybe some of the gaps that they see, or is something that they wanted and you cannot offer, then you can have a conversation, which is constructing based on what you know. So if you know that the person is, for example, motivated by financial, by finances, by money, then you really want to ask yourself, is this the only reason why this person is on my team or is with us? Is only because of money, right? Or is there something else? I mean, because what happens is there's 2 scenarios. One, you create a precedent. So if you offer, a contra offer to someone leaving, what happens as a leader, then you're probably going to have more of those requests, because other people on the team will say, okay, so if Mădălina did that and she's able to get a raise, then probably that's the way that I should do it too. So let me go find a contra offer, bring it to, to my manager and try to get, a higher salary, right?
Yeah.
And this will probably hurt the culture of the company, and also, put in a really bad spot the manager or the leader, right? So
Yeah,
as
it
a
will create.
ground, yeah,
Yeah, it will create a it will create, let's say, a movement. And if somebody in the team will hear that I don't know, I got a raise based on that, they somehow will start, oh, I have another offer, I want to leave the company.
yeah,
That
exactly,
might be one of the bad things that can happen from here. Yeah, you're
yeah.
right.
And so then I usually advise against that, because what I have found is that, um, if the person uses that kind of strategy to get a raise, it might be that something was not functioning before. Like, I mean, you as a leader didn't really know what the person wants, and probably they might have not talk about this in your one-on-one discussions, right? How is this a surprise right now for you as a leader? So this shouldn't come as a surprise. And then if it comes as a surprise, it means that you're missing something. You don't have the whole picture, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So as a leader, I usually advise against that, because of this reason, and also because, what makes you think that in 6 months from now they will not do the same? They will not still look for another offer, right? So if they want to leave, it's just a matter of time, right? That would be a strategy for you to buy more time to replace the person, right? So you might convince someone to stay another 6 months, and then you could, create a scenario where you replace that person. But I think there is an aspect here. I think as leaders, we need to understand what motivates people. And I know this about financial motivation. So what happens is, like, if you give someone a salary raise, what happens is that they will be motivated probably 2 or 3 months. But if you don't offer someone the salary that they think they deserve, then they will be demotivated for 1 year. So money doesn't have the same effect when, you motivate someone financially, or when they feel they're not paid enough. So what I say is, remove the money issue from the table. In other words, pay people, enough, so they don't bring the money discussions in every one-on-one that you have with them. Because otherwise you will always focus on money, and it's like an argument, and there is nothing productive coming out of that. So what happens is that, when you look at this, from the manager perspective, from the leader perspective, you really want to remove the money issue from the table. So when you do that, what happens is that you really can create a creative environment, because instead of people, thinking about how they can solve, their financial issues, how they will pay the next bill, how they will pay the mortgage, and all of that, they can think about, solving the problems in the workplace. So if you remove the money issue from the table, then you can really create a performance driven organization, because then you look at other things like culture, like leadership culture, like personal development, like professional development, like career opportunities, all of the other things that are, motivate people outside of money. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, right, Florin? And I noticed something, and you can also share what's your opinion. I noticed that people tend to stay in one company, organization, or even a team when they have more than money, when they
Yeah,
feel part of something bigger than themselves.
yeah.
This is what I learned from my clients and from people in other businesses.
Mm-hmm.
um, if you want to put money aside, then you should think ahead. As a leader, you should think ahead. How can you involve your top people even more in something meaningful for them? So I think that what your advice, what you said at the beginning, it was a good advice to identify what is actually motivating your top people from those four cases that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And and that will reduce the possibility for people to actually leave the team, because guess what, they found something better, not only for the money but also for a better environment in other team, or maybe another, let's say, a better connection with the future leader, the future manager. I don't know. There might be a situation. They can be part of a team or a better, let's say, social life. Yeah,
Hmm.
so might be something different, or even with more rules. If we go to the category where you say more structured, more rules, yeah, people respect the rules, not not the other way around. And maybe people who are driven or who are action driven, yes, and they want to be better, faster, yes, and they want to achieve anything they want. And of course, you actually mentioned one more thing in the four categories, and I want you to say in our last minutes for this record.
Hmm.
You said that people want to be in a stable environment.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that people don't want to change.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
That. Yeah.
and those are. I think this is the reverse of the coin. Yeah, the other face of the coin. Okay, what to do if my, let's say, my bottom people, yeah,
Hmm.
not the top people, but the bottom people in my team, they
Hmm.
don't bring enough results, but they actually don't want to leave the team
Right.
because of
Yeah.
the change. They want to leave the team, but yeah, it's more comfortable to stay in here because I like it. I already know the manager. I already know how the things are done. I know everybody. It's close to my house, something like that. So what
Yeah.
to do in this case where people like stability?
Yeah. So I think what we need to do with those people, we need to challenge them, right? So I guess if you leader in today's world, you probably have to change some things. I mean, the way we did business and the way we run our companies before COVID and now, it's very different. The work environment have changed, the priorities have changed. We talk a lot more about sustainability, we talk a lot more about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So these are now top of mind for leaders. And so this required change. Whenever we go and we go through a transformation like COVID has started, we go through different phases of change. So what we're looking at here, we're looking at embedding cultural change. And in any kind of change, there are different roles that people take. We have found that usually uh, you could have people that are pioneers, right? So those that really motivated, and they are motivated by the change and they are up there in the front and they are pioneer. Then we have champions that support these pioneers and also drive the change. Influencers that could influence people to go either way, either with the change and with the performance, or maybe just let's wait and see, right? Then we have the hesitators, which people in this category wait and see. Those people that like a stable environment would be in this category. They will be a little bit more laid back and say, okay, I know this all these things with working from home or maybe back to office. I don't want to get into that discussion. I don't want to get into that conflict. I will wait and see which part wins, and then I'm going to join the one that wins, right? So they wait and see. So
Yeah,
in that case, right? And then we have another category, which is the obstructors. So these people are not aware that they are an obstructor. It's not that they have mean agenda. They don't want you and the team to succeed. It's just that they like things just the way they are. They might not see the need for a change. So when we look at some, people on our teams, they usually fall in these five categories. And so those that are maybe underperforming or taking it easier and wanted to stay on the team, we need to challenge them. We need to make them aware. Are there maybe obstructing the process? Like if you're not with, at least do not be against, right?
go
Right.
with
So
the wave. Yes.
exactly. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to identify where are these people, and it comes to their behavior, right? So if they want a stable environment, I get that, and some of these employees will be the best team players, but also they will be, the ones against change usually because they like a stable environment. They'll have the security of the job, and it's the job of the leader to actually challenge them, to challenge these people to get a little bit more interested into the change, to to have those discussions and set goals that stretch them a little bit more out of their comfort zone, right? Otherwise, they'll probably be comfortable there. But if you're not comfortable with them being comfortable, then you want to challenge them. And if they don't want to be challenged, then maybe they shouldn't be part of the team. Right? Not, one of the things that I learned is that not everyone that starts the journey with you will end the journey with you. And as a leader, usually we don't want, especially people we employ, right? We don't want them to not perform, and we don't want to let them go because we employ them. So that way I'm kind of, contradicting myself or admitting that I was wrong employing the person, right? So what I advise leaders to do is, hire slow and let go fast. Right? I mean, admit if you are wrong, you are wrong. Like, it's better to, I think John Maxwell shared a quote saying that if you want to make some noise and actually create some problems, make a mistake. If you want to create huge problems, fail to admit that mistake. So, right? So here, as a leader, we don't want to actually admit that maybe we hired the person that didn't fit the company culture, or maybe we thought they fit when we hired them, but now a few months later, 1 year later, 2 years later, we realized that that was not true. And so it's okay also to challenge those people, and if they cannot perform in another role on the team, also let them go.
Good. Well, thank you for that, Florin, for all your answers to these questions. I'm actually learning a lot just by hearing you, and I didn't know that quote from Maxwell. Based on this, if we are okay with the people we hired or not, and we find out in, let's say, 1 to 3 months, 1 year, that the person is not suitable for the company, I think that will bring us to the next topic that we can discuss next week, related to feedback, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
As a leader.
So this is what we got as questions, right? So how do we? I think we're gonna talk about feedback, right? How do we provide feedback, and as an employee or member of the team, how do you deal with feedback, right? How do you receive feedback?
I would say feedback, but let's face it, it's more criticism, because usually people, even though it's called feedback, people think about it as a criticism. And we know that we as people, we have fear of criticism. And I also have in the leadership game, that sessions that I bring to people, I have this card that is say, how do you get feedback? How do you react when you get a feedback, aka criticism? And the way you and your team deal with this, then it's a very good opportunity for you to discuss, understand how people usually in your team, as you already mentioned, there are different categories of people, how people in your team take feedback, and how can you as a leader make sure that you get the honest feedback from people. That's the most important question, I think. How can I make sure as a leader that I honestly get, I really get an honest feedback from people, and they don't just, I don't know, hide somewhere. They don't want to say anything, even though I make mistake as a leader.
Yeah, that would be a very interesting discussion, and I cannot wait for us to dive into that. And for anyone watching, if you have any question, any challenge you would like us to address in one of the next episodes, just put that into the comment. We will go to the comments and we will collect those and cover on the next episode. So thank you for joining me, Mădălina. It was great today. I look forward to see you next week.
Likewise.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.